how come a county that's surrounded by the ocean is having water shortages? It just didn't make sense to me. And one thing about me, I know they always have an excuse for why they don't use common sense, because when you're doing something that you know you don't have no business doing, when you targeting people, when we know that there's an agenda for the smart city, and we know that the insurance companies backed out, we see the red flags, we know this is an attack on our people. And, you know, one of the things you have to do to carry out these kind of evil attacks, you have to play dumb, for one. And then you got to be a good excuse maker, because people gonna say, duh, like, you must have wanted this place to burn down because look at all this ocean water. Why ain't we have systems in place already to prevent this kind of stuff? And this is what the people are asking. I was one of those people. And at first, I thought I was alone. And then I went online to research, why aren't we using seawater in LA? And I found out that this was a thing. This is a big $1 million question that the people are asking, and that I wasn't alone. And I didn't know that it was as big as it was. And so now I see that you got all kind of news stories. You got so many people that are trying to answer this question because they see it is a good question. I mean, you're talking about a place surrounded by oceans. And we got water shortages. Now, either we dumb, either there must be some good reasons why this place burnt down like this with all this water around, and why we don't have systems in place that would prevent this from the get-go. So I did all the thorough research. You know me. I have to get my nerd on. I went on Chat GPT and everything. I put up a lot of stuff, and now I'm here today to share a lot of that with you guys, and then let you do your own questioning, make up your mind. Please like and share. So the $1 million question is, why aren't we using seawater? Is number one, but that question breaks down into many other questions. And the other questions is costs, expenses. And this is a conversation of preventive systems, what we're having right now. And you got to mark that down and keep that in mind, that seawater systems to fight fires in LA isn't something that we say, oh, we got a fire, let's go get water from the ocean. What we must realize before I get deep into this presentation is that LA County has 6 different departments that have a budget cut from tax dollars, and what they're getting money for from the ocean. Okay, that was a double play. My bad. So what you got to do, people, you got to consider this. It's 6 different departments in LA County that receive budget cuts from taxpayers to prevent disasters like what we see now. Now, listen, the key word in what I just said is prevent disasters. Check. Prevent disasters, not move like dummies and chickens with our heads cut off after the fact. So why do we pay tax dollars into 6 different departments in LA County? These 6 different departments, right? Their job isn't to wait till a fire happen and respond like what we see right now, because that is a failure to the people. Because these departments make billions of dollars a year in tax budget cuts, and their job is to prevent. This is the key word right here. This means that with all the money that they get, they should have systems and jobs in place, and they should have drills. What the people know. See, these billions of dollars that these 6 departments in LA County get, they supposed to use that money to create technological systems that will prevent disasters like what we see, and they supposed to have artificial intelligence run out the worst case scenarios in computer simulations, and the AI will tell you that this was going to happen. AI is a prophet, man. I know it's spooky, but let's keep it real. AI is a prophet. All they have to do, run a simulation. AI would have told them this was going to happen. And we would have ran every scenario AI threw at us, and we would have had training. Somebody wanted this to happen because you didn't have no National Guard presence, no Army Reserve presence. What are they getting paid for? And these 6 departments are making billions of dollars a year to create preventative systems. What are they doing with all that money? That's a lot of money. All we need is some straws to suck water from one place and skeet it in another place. So you must got some good excuses on why you're not spending billions of taxpayer dollars to prevent this kind of stuff, and that would create jobs and a whole bunch of other things with these budgets. So check this out. Somebody just lacing their pockets, if you ask me, because I've done so much thorough research. I got receipts today. Shout out to my people in LA. We're going to expose all the lies they telling today about why they won't do the obvious and why common sense ain't coming. See, to carry out these kind of attacks on people, it's a lot of smart men got to play dumb. We love to put our tech gurus on pedestals, and there's a lot of tech gurus in Cali. Shoot, they got Silicon Valley right there. I wonder how much damage is done in Silicon Valley. So a lot of people who's smart have to come with the great excuses on why we won't do common sense things like use ocean water. Why you keep telling these people the reason it's so devastating is because of water shortages when we're surrounded by the ocean, and the people are not you know what I said? I said, if they gonna keep telling this lie about, the water shortages, somebody gotta challenge it and debunk it, because the people asking a good question and they not just gonna shoot it down with the stuff that I've been hearing. So what is some of the stuff that I've been hearing? Because everyone wants to know why we aren't using seawater to fight the wildfires in Southern California. So today's stream will cover and expose all of the lies we've been told about why we aren't. So buckle up, let's go.
We have had some issues with water. If you stick enough straws into a glass of water, it's going to empty faster.
The biggest ever wildfires have raged in Los Angeles' neighborhood for nearly a week. 24 people have been confirmed dead, 200,000 people have been displaced, and around 12,000 structures have been destroyed, along with 35,000 acres of land. Emergency officials have also faced a nightmare situation with fire hydrants running out of water. At some point this week, up to 20% of the city's hydrants went dry, according to LA Mayor Karen Bass.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
It's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be, of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
to fill the hydrants. I would fill them up personally, you know that. I would fill up the hydrants myself. But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not!
But California sits on a massive water resource, the Pacific Ocean. So why aren't firefighters using seawater to battle the blazes? While the nearby Pacific Ocean offers a massive water source, using seawater to fight fires comes with challenges.
Let's hear these challenges, because I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm about to beat these things down. Finish him.
Experts note that while seawater and freshwater both effectively cool fires, salt water can harm the environment by...
Now listen here now. Let's rewind it. Maybe she's talking too fast. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's 1.25. I knew it was something. Let's hear the reasons why we ain't doing the obvious, which is, hey, we right by the ocean, let's put the fires out. Why we gonna burn down because of water shortages, water pressure? Why aren't these systems in place? Like I asked earlier, let's go.
Is using seawater to battle the blazes. While the nearby Pacific Ocean offers a massive water source, using seawater to fight fires comes with challenges.
Let's hear them.
Experts note that while seawater and freshwater both effectively cool fires, salt water can harm the environment by...
So you're telling me salt water can harm the environment more than these fires that are devastating the place? with over $250 billion in climbing worth of damages. This is worse than Hurricane Katrina. I think they're saying that this is worse than Katrina when it comes to damages. And look, New Orleans is still recovering, and that's been a long time. So think about what we're going to see in LA. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people that's going to be displaced. But check it out. Let's deal with this first argument. They are worried about soil damage, people. Do you hear me? What? Oh, man, that just hurt my chest. These people going to give me a doggone heart attack, man, with the lies that they telling, man. Oh, let's take a minute and meditate on this first lie. We're not using ocean water because it's going to mess up the soil. Well, number one, we ain't in no farmland. Who cares about the soil? It ain't like these LA residents got farms in their backyard. They ain't in Alabama. They don't care. And if you were in Alabama, people will say, you can take my farm to keep my house. That's the question we asking. Well, we don't want to damage the soil. We don't care about that long as we can still build on top of it, because this is not farmland. The only time we're going to make the argument that we care about damaging the soil is if we're on acres of farmland. Let's say these fires took place in Nebraska, the bread basket with all of that corn and wheat, and you just got it burning up. Then guess what? You want to let that stuff burn up before you start putting retardants and chemicals like fire extinguisher chemicals and stuff, because then the state of Nebraska won't be able to plant more crops. That'll be the end of the bread basket. So if we was in Nebraska, if we was in a state that depended on farmland, right, for its economy, then you would be making a good argument. We don't want to use nothing but fresh water to put the fire out, because we want to be able to plant crops again when this thing burn out, right? But in a heavy, populated place like LA, it's just not a good argument. We're not in farmland. So argument number one, we don't want to mess the soil up. We don't want to mess the people's houses up and people's lives up. Long as we can still build on top of the soil, then it serves its purpose, because, like I said, none of those people were farmers. Who cares about the soil, right? This is not a good argument. Let's move on.
By salinizing soil, which inhibits plant growth and reduces fertility.
Like I said, this isn't no farmland. Why are they acting like we're in Nebraska? Because I'm going to be honest with you. If you was in some place that really depended on the soil for their economy, it would be devastating to use anything other than fresh water. But anywhere else, if you ain't planting no crops on that ground, if y'all just living on it and just like with houses and stuff and stores and all that, oh yeah, you can use retardants on that. You can use this, chemicals and all that on the ground. Because guess what? We don't care if these trees grow back. You know why? These trees are a fire hazard anyway. We should be happy that we reducing the fertility on trees that is reducing the doggone population and house damage. If you ask any of these LA residents, do y'all rather keep y'all houses or these trees? They would say houses over the trees. And trust me, we live in the desert out here in Las Vegas. We don't got a lot of trees, which is why we don't have a lot of wildfires. And it's hotter than California. You hear me? So from a scientific level, y'all ain't making no sense at all. Because everybody know if I got so many trees that it's a fire hazard, it's time to start spraying some chemicals and Roundup and killing some of these trees. Why? Unless you saying that you're going to let the trees run the people away, No, the people are going to run the trees away. That's why man got technology, so we can conquer nature, right? We don't, unless this is somebody's plan to run the people away. Somebody's wanna run these people away, because if it was their land, they would say, screw them trees, save my property. But in the people's case, we don't want to save the property because it reduces fertility of trees that are fire hazards anyway. Let me tell you something, man. I just got a tree cut down in my front yard just because it was brushing up against my arm every time I got in a car. That's how much I care about a tree when it comes to my living quarters and property. I'm just saying, and I'm a nature lover. But man, this was built for my domain. That tree can grow some other trees down the street. And I'll pause in these weeds and trees that I don't want on my property, and I'll put the seed where I want the tree to be. This is, and I don't understand how we lose that mentality when it comes to the residents of LA. No, we're going to let the trees win. We'll just let the people be displaced. We don't want to mess the soil up. We want trees to keep growing. Right now, we love the trees. We don't want to harm the trees, even though the people are being harmed. And their lives will be forever affected. Come on, man. Come on, man. So let's go to the next argument.
Tim Chavez, a retired fire analyst, explains that salt can sterilize the soil, making it unsuitable for crops or vegetation.
This is not no farmland. This is a horrible argument that y'all making. This is a horrible argument that y'all making. So argument number one, right? We're going to shoot that one down right off the bat.
Fatality.
We already beat you up. That's lies, 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 lies. We don't care about crops and vegetation. Give me that Roundup and that weed killer. Real talk, man. You can tell these lies to somebody else, man. The people property come before some trees and vegetation. Hey, for real, though.
Metropolitan water systems are not designed to sustain a firefight like this.
See, everybody that want to debate what I'm saying, if there was a tree in front of your house that kept heating up by the sun, catching on fire, you wouldn't move out of your house. Guess what you would do? Kill that tree. Why won't you keep it real, man? Now, you would do that, but you telling me I'm wrong for making this argument on behalf of these LA residents because the city giving them a bunch of bull crap to say why they won't just use salt water. It doesn't make sense. They saying they don't want to use salt water, right? But they're using flame retardants in the fresh water that they're using. What? I'm going to give y'all a news flash. Don't you know that flame retardants does the same thing to the soil, right? That salt water does. And I would beg to differ. I would say that if I was growing some tomatoes in my kitchen and you told me to water those tomatoes with fresh water with flame retardants in it, or water those tomatoes with ocean water, which one do you think the tomatoes would like the best? Just think about that a minute. I'm growing tomatoes, right? Because they arguing about crop and soil vegetation like this is farmland, when this is all residential land that they got a plan for. People, I didn't want to keep going live about this, but the more I sit back and watch, I just can't stomach it. Somebody got to come out and challenge the nonsense. So it's just so many hypocrisies. Like, you're using fresh water with flame retardants in it, but you don't want to use seawater. And this sounds like you want certain areas to burn down and you want to treat certain areas. This is strategic planning. We want to specifically burn down certain areas, and we're going to, because in a water shortage situation, which areas do the city treat first? Who becomes top priority? You better believe this going to tie into rich first poll ads like everything else do. So, okay, so You don't want to use seawater because it's going to damage the soil, but yet you're going to use fresh water with flame retardants in it. What? Okay, let's keep going. The first argument, we beating it up now. We beating up this first argument, right? And we're going to be thorough. You're not going to tell no lies that we ain't going to beat up. So let's go to the next one.
One house like this, you might have three or four
fire engines. We think we've lost 8,000 structures. So times 3 fire engines each, that requires 26,000 fire engines. I don't think the state of California has 26,000 fire engines.
Salt water also corrodes firefighting equipment like hoses and tanks.
Here go the second lie. The second lie is salt water corrodes hoses and tanks. Okay, I already beat up on the first lie, and man, did I do the first lie wrong.
Fatality.
Oh man, I did the first lie wrong. Now the second lie is it's gonna damage hoses and tanks. Who cares about it damaging equipment when it's damaging precious property? Unless you care about the equipment more than the people property, and the people is the ones pay for your equipment. What? Are y'all hearing this? That's one argument that I'm gonna make in defense. And here's another argument that no one gonna be able to argue with right here. Because Sanchez is a debater. And when I hear BS, I'm gonna call it out and prove that you're talking BS. So you're talking about we're not gonna use seawater because it damages equipment, right? Okay, I got my receipts today, people. Don't you know on oil rigs, when an oil rig catches fire, they use seawater to put the fire out? What? Hold on. When an oil rig catches on fire, and people, you got to keep in mind, an oil rig fire makes what happened in LA look like a baby fire. But the scale was big in LA, a lot across acres and acres of land. But I'm talking about the degrees, right? Because oil burns more violently than trees and wood houses. These oil rig fires are very dangerous because everyone know oil they making gas out of this stuff, man. This is a fueling. You fuel fire. This is like trying to pull out a gasoline fire in the middle of the ocean. Ain't no fire department in fresh water. So people, this is what happens, right? They tell us lies. They say, well, listen, this stuff is gonna damage our equipment if we just take that water from the ocean. Now, I killed lie number one. Now, I'm still beating up on lie number 2, but I'm going to finish him here. Okay, I ain't done with him yet, right? We got to look at how much they lie to us and how little the people think. Because you can't just tell me anything and think that I'm going to say, okay, and go home. I'm going to question it, and if you telling me a lie, buddy, I'm going to show back up and say, man, you lied to me. I'm not no fool. I don't, and I don't care that you're playing me for a fool. You can't tell me anything, man. Talking about, well, we can't put the fire out with seawater because it's going to damage the equipment. Well, you talking about how it damages the equipment on y'all rich people's oil rigs. So let me get this straight. The rich people is making money, taking precious resources from the earth that the earth need. They got these oil rigs, all right, that's offshore, drilling resources from the earth. When these things catch on fire, and by the way, let me throw this in here too. The crew members that work on these things have a dangerous job because they working on a bomb, basically, literally. The pressure conditions and all of that, man, you know how much money they make to work on an oil rig? The situation is deadlier than working in a coal mine. So you so far away from, they got to have their own medical crew on board. It's just a lot to it. But the reason I'm pulling up the oil rig is because If you can extinguish a oil rig fire with seawater, you can't tell me nothing, bro. Because an oil rig fire is like worse than a gas station blowing up. This is where the gas station get their fuel from. It starts here. Do you know there's a tube that goes from the oil rig all the way down to the ocean floor? That whole tube is flammable and filled with gases and oils that's pressurized. Any little thing go wrong, right, on this oil rig, I doubt if they even let people smoke on them. So if you work on an oil rig or you know somebody, I'm pretty sure it's a no smoking environment. I mean, that would be common sense. But in cases of fires, when they do emerge, they are able to put these fires out in a reasonable amount of time with seawater, and there are no equipment concerns. So right now we know we being lied to. Can I take a minute and look at my chat room for just a minute? And I want to ask everyone, we have like 1K in the building. Please hit the like and share button. It helps with the algorithm. Please hit the like and share button. Can you also, when you hit the like and share button, drop a 1 right now, because I'm looking at the chat room. Am I right here? Is this a legitimate receipt to prove deceit? Is this a receipt for deceit? Is this a receipt for deceit? Because argument number 2 is our equipment gonna mess up with that salt water. Were y'all able to put out these rich people's oil rig fires with salt water? You able to put out the rich man's oil rig fires with salt water. When the Coast Guard have these ships go up in flames, they put it out with salt water. How come everybody can use salt water, but when it comes to the LA residents, oh, we can't use salt water? And every lame argument you give me, I'm gonna thoroughly shoot it down in this live stream. I wasn't going to touch this again because I don't just want to make content to make it, but it's aggravating when you sit back and hear the lies after the fact when people start asking very intelligent questions. So let's hear some more of the lies. Why aren't we using seawater to put out these fires? Because that's common sense, and you doing it for everybody else.
Which are typically designed for freshwater. Despite this, LA County firefighters have utilised ocean water, deploying specialised super scoopers. These aircraft, resistant to saltwater corrosion, can collect and drop up to 1,600 gallons at a time.
And that ain't nothing compared to what we see. This is like trying to put your house fire out with cups of water, is what we're hearing. And why would you just want to have a system in play that relying on helicopters and planes going back and forth to the ocean versus a preventive system in play of pumps that would interconnect the saltwater and freshwater systems together? Why hadn't that been done? And it ain't that much money, because that's going to be the next excuse what I looked up when they said, why didn't, because the people was asking, why don't we have preventive systems in place that would already pump the salt water into areas that need them? Because we know we're prone to wildfires in LA. So people are asking good questions, and I'm going to deal with them all because the deceivers are answering those questions with lies. And I'm not going to let them play these people like fools, because people will take what they say and just go home. Okay, the scientists said it was this reason. No, they lying. Let's watch.
However, aerial firefighting in the region faces another challenge.
Because what happens is, if you want to strategically target certain areas with this fire, then you don't want to have the systems in play that will prevent it. If you know later on down the line you want to smoke your enemy out, you would make sure these systems don't exist. And if they did exist, you would make sure those systems fail, like the levees during Hurricane Katrina. Because They had the systems in place in the case of Katrina, but people heard explosions with the levees, and that's when the flooding happened. People think it was because of the hurricane to this day, but what they don't know is Katrina was a result, the flooding was a result of the levees. And the question is, did the hurricane break the levees, or were there explosions that broke the levees? To this day, people don't know what happened with Katrina because the news media. All right, let me give a shout out to Humbled Up for that super chat donation. He said, "Truth, bro, Sanchez, I'm with you. Something fishy." Thank you, brother. Thank you, Humbled Up. Listen, Hurricane Katrina didn't flood New Orleans. People need to quit saying that. That's propaganda. New Orleans flooded because the levees broke. They always have hurricanes. And those levees was built to withstand some big boys. And Katrina was one of those things that these levees was built to withstand. All right? So people do have rumors of explosions. You got to understand that there's a lot of strategic areas in America that our government won't control of. Let me explain something to you. Donald Trump is in office. Donald Trump always wanted control over the Gulfs, the ports, the outer perimeter of America is the borders. Trump is the border president. He want to really reinforce this border thing, this whole barrier around America. He want a supreme, and it's really about having control over America's shipping industry, the ports and all of that. And it's a corporate monopoly agenda at the end of it. It's a war going on a financial level. But what we got to realize is with Trump being in office and we seeing a lot of coastal area attacks, you know, you're seeing areas like Katrina that was taking place back in the day, before Trump, and that is the Gulf of Mexico, which is a very key important point in America where the Gulf of Mexico has a lot of poor houses that's beachfront properties, like Mobile, Alabama, Mississippi, all of those poor states, they got beautiful beachfront properties, right? In these areas where you got a lot of, let's just say, poor people who got these beachfront properties, and they're always getting hit, man, with these weather attacks in these port areas. And America can't really move forward how it want to if it don't get this barrier, this perimeter under control. And they can't do it if you still got a lot of private residential properties along the coastlines, like what we got in North Carolina, down there in the south in the Gulf of Mexico. And see, what did Katrina do? It started right there in Virginia, North Carolina, and worked its way around Florida and the Gulf, everywhere where the poor people is occupying these beachfront lands, like in Biloxi, Mississippi. You got a lot of people with rundown houses, man, but it's near the beach, though. Now, the government got a lot of plans for these coastal areas, for ports in the future, smart ports, coastal plans and stuff. And you know, the beachfront areas of America is very important to the government because it's the entryway into America. And there's a lot of these areas that is still predominantly occupied with private residential properties that is like they really don't want that in America. Think more like Dubai, right? If you look at the coastal line in Dubai, right, it's very technological and sort of built up upscale into like smart city type concept. That's what people are theorizing about all of the wildfires in LA, that it's part of eventually to bring in the new smart city concept. So that is to give you an idea of what that would be like. It'll be like Dubai on steroids. Dubai is like this first prototype of how we can create what I call a smart port city. It is what I'll coin it. But let's finish debunking this second lie. Let's let them go on.
Strong Santa Ana winds. Pilots must execute precision drops while avoiding damage to buildings and vehicles.
What happened to the water system? Was it, and by the way, was it just overwhelm? That you had so much that was used, we drew it down? Was it pipes? Was it electricity? It was a combination of pipes, electricity.
You know, these kind of conversations shouldn't be had by our experts after the damage is done, because our experts are making billions of dollars every year to put preventive systems in place. That means we got you covered. We got your back. We're thinking about what can happen before it happens. And if they're not doing that, they're misusing the tax dollars in a lot of these budget programs that are just siphoning in free money, and they don't have to sit there and every day stress about what if a wildfire take place? What if this happened? What if that happened? That's somebody's job. That's a group of departments' job that's taking tax dollars from you all. It's 6 different departments, and they're making billions a year, and their only job is to sit there and say what could happen, how we can prevent it, and we got enough money to go and build and engineer whatever we need to do straight out of this tax money to make sure that we prevent this stuff. It may not never happen, but we spent your tax dollars to make this system just in case it do happen. That's how this is supposed to work. But if somebody's saying, look, I'm going to pocket this money and just hope everything go well, then guess what? We will be failed every time. You got to think, man, in L.A. County, there's so much corruption and misuse of the budgeting money. So many of their officials have been locked up and brought up on scandals and cases. Real talk. So think about what I'm saying now. When people asking what's happening with our tax dollars, you're supposed to have some in place to prevent that. That's your only job. So, you know, it's like an insurance company. I'm paying into this insurance company. Your only job is for when I have a disaster in my life is to pay out so that I can get, you know, my insurance or whatever. And they had one job. Even insurance companies failed their one job. The people in LA was failed on so many levels by so many people at the top that this is an act of war, man. And they are able to do this because they know we're not going to do nothing about it. Everybody going to have this attitude like, well, it didn't happen to me until it's your turn.
And pumps.
But the kind of conversations that is cringe, because these are our experts that's making billions of dollars. We put these people on a pedestal and say how smart they are, but yet they are not using their smarts for the people. They're using it to enhance the corporate agenda. All of our tech gurus excel at using their brains when it comes to creating technology for the corporations to help them police us more and to corrupt us more and to create us more into a consumer. They're excelling at that with straight A's on a report card. But when it comes to our tech gurus developing systems that will protect its people, they're horrible at that. And the corporate agenda is more technical and complex than it is to just suck water from the ocean and put the fire out. The people pay billions of dollars for basic systems that will prevent large-scale, complicated problems. We pay into programs to protect us from said things from happening, and someone pockets that money. And how I know? Because things like this happen, and there should have been preventive systems in place, even if those systems fail. Even if they say, well, we spent billions of dollars on this ocean system, just in case something happened, we can, you know, fire this thing up. We have training on it twice a year. We got a little crew for it that we paying with the tax dollars. And then just in case something big happened, we got a team that can run this thing to help us with firefighting. Boom. That ain't there. And you when people say, why aren't these preventive systems there? They start blaming the fact that it's technological challenges, because that'll be your only excuse. You can't say you don't got the money. We giving you the tax dollars. So why aren't you solving the problems if your job is to why aren't you preventing the problems? Because it ain't their job to solve problems, and they don't even solve problems. Here's what their job is. Let me educate you. Their job is to prevent problems. And if the problems still occur, they fail their job. Now, if the problems still occur, their second job is to solve the problem. And if they don't do that, they good for nothing. You might as well give me my money back, man. Like, come on, how you just failing every time? Let me give a shout out to Big Dog Philly. Thank you for the donation. I'm going to say that one more time. I'm not going to be too redundant. I'm just saying, your job is to prevent these kind of disasters from happening. You can't say, well, we don't know what's going to happen. Man, y'all can profile a person and find out who the criminal is without knowing nothing about them. Y'all can transport human consciousness out of their head with brain-computer interfaces. Y'all can predict weather and tell us when the hurricane gonna turn, when it's gonna stop. But we don't have preventive measures to foresee stuff like this. I think we don't want to see it. Everybody turn their head when innocent people get attacked. That's why we don't want to see it. So we got preventive measures for everything else. We can foresee everything else. And yeah, we have artificial intelligence today that can simulate the worst case scenarios and multiply these scenarios by hundreds and even thousands. And don't you know that we can have cheap programs that use volunteer work from fire departments and National Guard, Reserve, that use that tax budget money to actually run exercises based upon these AI simulations, because the AI gonna let us know all of the problems that can come up. I've seen these artificial intelligence programs, and I ain't gonna lie, y'all, they are phenomenal. I'm not a big fan of excessive technology, but I gotta be honest about what AI can do. I'm just saying, we're using AI to police people, but we're not using AI to protect people, all right?
What was that drawdown? Impossible, because you lost 7,000+ structures right here anyway, and every single structure we lost had a pipe that was leaking, and we'd have lost that water pressure anyway.
As of now, 16 other aircraft, including Firehawks and air tankers, are supporting efforts with fresh water. Once the Palisades fire is controlled...
Okay, so we heard all of the arguments in the video, and basically the arguments is we can't use salt water because it damages our equipment, but I debunked that one. And the first argument was we don't want to mess the soil up, but this ain't farmland. So that one video gave us two arguments, in my opinion, that are nothing burger arguments that the people shouldn't take serious, and they should double down on these questions. Now, let's check out another video here that's gonna attempt to do damage control and explain, because they gotta answer this question. A lot of people in LA, they looking over their right shoulder at a city that's burning down, and then they looking over their left shoulder at all of this water. Imagine that. You look over your right shoulder, it's an inferno. You look over your left shoulder, beautiful blue ocean. So a lot of people are gonna be asking, yo, why aren't we using ocean water? Why are we letting the city burn down? And complain about water shortages? You know, the people are saying, why are we letting the city just burn down while we complain about water shortages and pin it all on Karen Bass? who is the scapegoat. I actually made a 20-minute video about this, but I didn't upload it. Maybe I'll play it in this stream. But let's hear this video's excuses.
Why isn't the seawater being used to fight the flames? The answer is that the fire experts have said that it is far more complex than it seems. While seawater can, in theory, help extinguish these flames.
In theory, you see how they want to make it so complicated to use seawater to fight these fires when I'm showing you right now the worst kind of fire that you can have in the world, people, is an oil rig fire. Facts. If you look up top 10 worst kind of fires, you're going to see an oil rig explosion on that list. And we able to put out an oil rig fire with salt water. Just fine, with just a few boats. Look, that ain't a lot of boats. Let's count how many hoses that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That look like 5 ships putting out a whole oil rig explosion with just 4. That's like 4. Let's see. I don't know what you can compare it to on land, but 4 ships. You got 4 hoses putting out an oil rig fire in a considerable amount of time. We're talking about just 4 hoses. This is one of the most dangerous types of explosions and combustions on Earth, people. All right? And you got to think, there's a pressurized tube that's coming from the oil rig all the way down to the ocean floor. That's full of gases and oil, and so the fire is going all the way down into the ocean in the tube. They ain't just extinguishing this on the surface. You can see that this thing goes all the way down. This is a crazy situation to have, because it's so many valves and pipes and pressurized situations that once we have a explosion, it's almost always bad. So the fact that they can put out an oil rig fire with just 4 hoses using seawater, I'm not gonna go with any of these complexities and technicalities they're giving me, but I'll listen.
Its salty composition often does more harm than good at this point. Salt is in fact highly corrosive and can damage critical firefighting equipments. So the equipments in itself that are being used to fight the flames can get damaged in the process of bringing in seawater to fight the raging fires. Additionally, salt reduces water's cooling effect as well, making it less effective at containing the high temperature blazes. Reports say that salt water is also a better conductor of electricity than fresh water, slightly increasing risks of firefighters on the ground being electrocuted. Environmental concerns.
Wait, they said salt water will increase the chances of firefighters getting electrocuted. Do y'all hear this crap? Do y'all hear this crap? Think about this, y'all. They're worried about electrocution from salt water when the firefighter's life is in danger from the fact that they got to run into an inferno with no water. Let me say that again. If I was a firefighter, I wouldn't be worried about being electrocuted from salt water. I will be worried about this fire surrounding me in this inferno situation and ain't no way out. And we have water issues. If I'm a fireman, I ain't worried about water because I'm surrounded by an inferno. You think if I'm a firefighter, I'm worried about an electric shock because we're using ocean water? The fact that we have a water shortage and we sending these firemen into harm's way is more harmful than not using the ocean water. Like, that's common sense.
Stupid.
The firefighter has a greater risk of dying in a situation where it's more fire than water, than just using the ocean water. You see what I'm saying? In other words, the firefighter can't do his job effectively. And if the firefighter can't do his job effectively because there are water shortages, it can cause him to risk his life. If firefighters are being sent out to fight a fire and they find themselves surrounded by flames in an inferno, the only thing they got on their side is water. And as a firefighter, I'd rather have seawater in my hose pipe than nothing at all and no pressure. And you sending me in the middle of an inferno, I don't care about an electric shock. I need water. You sending me around fire. Fire is electricity. What are you talking about? You worried about a scenario that only gonna happen 1 out of a million chance. People getting struck is like getting struck by lightning is so rare. But a bunch of firemen running into an inferno and having water shortage issues is very dangerous. I'd rather take the risk of using the seawater and take the little electric shock risk versus my city sending me into an inferno with no water. In case y'all don't know, the only thing you can fight fire with is water. So you sending me to go fight something, but you ain't giving me the weapon that I need to properly fight it with. That means I can lose this fight in the worst case scenario. And I see firemen dying from water shortages while they running into infernos happening before I see electric shocks happening because we use seawater. I'm just saying all of these excuses just don't make sense. Let's hear some more.
Also come into play. Dumping large amounts of salt water can harm the vegetation and wildlife, whatever little is.
We already went over the vegetation and wildlife. That is a lame argument. This is not farmland. Let's keep it moving.
Is remaining of it. Increased soil, salinity, damages.
You sending firemen into infernos and their equipment ain't even up to par. That's because you don't want them to properly fight it because it was part of the plan from the get-go. This all got red flags to it. The fact that I looked up the stats, right? The programs in play that's supposed to be maintaining the fire hydrants in LA County, they are checking all of these fire hydrants every year, once a year. People, that's good. I ain't gonna even cap. Because you gotta understand how many fire hydrants in LA County. Every year, they are checking them once a year. And that's pretty good. But they haven't been checking them for the past year under Karen Bass. They've been missing it. She cut the budget. And think about how perfectly timed that is. Everything going good. We checking the hydrants every year like we supposed to. And the 1 year we drop the ball on the maintenance and do the budget cut, this happens. That cannot be a coincidence. Let's hear some more lies.
Plant growth reduces permeability and can even make the soil toxic for the years to come. Let's take a look at some more responses on this matter to understand this very concept in greater depths.
To everyone that says salt water can electrocute you, guess what? Fire can burn you. I mean, think of the sense behind that. You're sending a fireman into hell's fires and he don't have the tool to fight the flames. That's a death sentence. If we got any kind of water issues, we're playing with the lives of firemen. You think so to say that you're protecting their lives because you don't want them to use seawater, Don't you know don't you know seawater is better than no water? If your house was burning up right now, yo, and I said, listen, I can put your house fire out with seawater or no water, every one of you gonna say, use the seawater, Sanchez. So think as if it was your house and don't just be so quick to respond. Because if my house was burning up and I'm about to lose everything, and somebody say, hey man, I gotta put your house fire out, or you can put your own house fire out for that matter, but you can only use seawater and it may shock you. Most people would take the risk of not losing their property because it's a very rare risk. The chances of you getting shocked because you're sending seawater through a hose is just not that high. I just don't see it being as dangerous as sending a fireman into an inferno with no water at all. If I was a fireman, send me with the seawater. I deal with the risk of electric shocks, but I don't want to deal with the risk of any kind of water issues and you're sending me into hell's fires. And let me give a shout out, Lil Sis, thank you for the super chat donation. Appreciate the love, Sarada Amaru. She says, at this point, if folks don't see the obvious deletion of folks as seen in the way for diabolical parasites, just shaking my head. Facts. Thank you, bro, Sanchez. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you. Shout out to the sister. You know, with these billions of dollars that they get to prevent stuff like this, part of that budget is to create commercials for the city to let them know in case of wildfires to close off their valves before they abandon their houses. You know how we used to have Smokey Bear propaganda so that we don't start wildfires in the woods? Smokey Bear campaign was funded by tax dollars. Now listen, these tax dollars that they get in these budget programs are supposed to be used to create commercials and media propaganda to help educate us on what to do in these situations. So for a place like LA County, the fact that everyone abandoned their houses and they didn't shut off the gas valves, that's intentional. How didn't you educate them on that unless you wanted this to be a problem? Not the gas valves, but the water valves. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the gas from the oil rig. But yeah, when everyone abandoned their house because the city told them to, but the city didn't tell them before you leave, shut off your water. It's one little knob or 2-3 little knobs in the house. You can do that before you leave, and that may save everybody property, because when everybody abandon their house with the water valves open, that's gonna decrease the water pressure in the whole system. And we know how that works, because the water is flowing through these houses that's abandoned. We need the water on the surface and not through the irrigation system. And going through bends and curves that it don't need to go through, basically. We need to get it directly to the source where they skeeted it at on the fire. But when everyone leaves their house abandoned and they leave the water just open, the pipes open, that's why the water pressure is so low when the firemen come try to open up these hydrants and fight it. And this kind of education is supposed to be paid for by the city. Is so many failures here that it seems intentional. So shout out to Mel Gibson, even though we don't know if we can trust him yet or not, but we appreciate him saying the truth for now. We'll watch him under a microscope. Let's hear some more lies.
We will be prepared. We will get through this. But it takes the unity and the spirit that I saw yesterday to make sure that Los Angeles comes out of this a much better city.
You know, this mayor is so... Now, I got to speak my mind. I hope y'all don't crucify me. She's evil. The whole while this was going on, she was out of town. And now that she's back speaking on it, she's speaking on it with a big smile on her face. And she's saying, LA gonna get better after this. Can you imagine if you are a LA resident that just lost your whole life, your livelihood just went up in flames, and it's time for the mayor to speak, and she's just happy and jolly, saying how we're so quick to move forward and things are gonna get better? No heart at all. There should be no smiling during this press conference. There should be no talks about, well, we only gonna get better. Why did it have to get better with my loss? That's a red flag that this is some kind of agenda that we got to retransform these areas according to some city and corporate agenda and some sort of plans. Let's give a shout out to Dave Poggers. Thank you so much for the super chat. Ah, man, it's just, I don't like how her face look. I'm sorry, man. Hey, drop a one if you feeling like me. Like, why are you so happy, ma'am? I would hate my mayor if I was a resident of in LA County that lost my property to hear her speak on this. Yeah, man. Especially when you was nowhere to be found and now you back happy, jolly, eager to move forward and talking about things getting better when my life is so worse right now, when my life has been destroyed. This is just, it's like, didn't someone in her department should have told her, hey, you know, this ain't a good look. Like, y'all should have rehearsed this. This is just cringe if you ask me.
We will be prepared. We will get through this. But it takes the unity and the spirit that I saw yesterday to make sure that Los Angeles comes out of this a much better city.
Right here. Like, you're smiling too hard in a time like this and wasn't nowhere to be found. Like, somebody should have let her know, hey, check the energy ain't all jolly right now. The city is going through, like, we need you to really be a shoulder to lean on and, like, cry with the people sometime. But this seems like she already know the agenda, the plans, and we're moving forward with, you know, boom, 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 that type of energy.
We are expecting severe gusts of wind in the coming days.
So I guess they're going to ask her the same question everyone else asking. Why aren't we using seawater? Why are we just letting the city burn down and complain about water shortages? You know, because Mayor Karen Bass is the one taking all of the flack when they blame the fire hydrants running dry. She's the scapegoat for this. I made a 20-minute edited video, and I'm going to play it at the end of this stream. It'll make more sense after I do the live, so I'm going to play it here in a minute. But she's the scapegoat, and that's why she's up there looking like a puppet with a Joker smile. She know that everyone's going to pin it on her, but it's bigger than her. It's a corporate agenda. Is bigger than LA, and I'm going to go over that in my 20-minute video.
Is the city prepared regarding fire hydrants and water pressure?
I believe the city is prepared.
We don't need no belief coming from the mayor. And we need a mayor that's saying, I know that the city is prepared because we've been using your billions of tax dollars to talk with the best scientists, to talk with the best engineers and run out the best simulations about what could happen and can't happen, because we got your back because y'all paying us all this money in tax dollars. So we got to have your back. Did you see how this works? And this is like insurance. You have to insure my safety. Otherwise, we might as well not pay into these billion-dollar programs whose job is to prevent this stuff. What are they doing? Because every time this stuff happens, They come in the aftermath with the dumbest responses in press conferences, and it's just not right when you're paying billions of dollars to taxpayers in LA County. Look it up. It's 6 different departments that make billions of dollars a year, and their responsibility is to prevent this type of stuff. And you haven't heard the names of these different departments. You just hear one name, and that's Karen Bass, but the money is being siphoned through 6 departments, and they're using her for the scapegoat. If you really follow the money, you will see how corrupted LA County is.
Now, this is the stark reality of climate change. No longer a distant issue that we have spoken about in the past, but a series of unfolding disasters seen through phone screens until the moment you find yourself capturing it firsthand. It is no longer something that we anticipate for the times to come in the future, but a ground reality today.
So I'm not hearing any good arguments on why we just letting the city burn down when we should have seawater systems. And it ain't a matter of why we aren't using seawater now. The real question is, why don't we have seawater systems already implemented on some preventive measures if you're making billions of dollars a year to prevent this kind of stuff? What you doing with the money? Because if you're in a departments and government that get money just to prevent stuff, you really got to have a lot of integrity, because what you're collecting billions of dollars every year, and the money just sitting there, and it ain't no way to open that money up, right? Excuse me. That money is just sitting there, and you can really use that money for raises, for all kind of stuff. But the moment you got to spend into that money for the people and to do what we really giving you this money to do, which is to prevent disasters, the moment you start using that money for what we giving it to you for, you won't have it to use for yourself. Now, if you using all that money for you and your buddies because you're saying to yourself, well, nothing like this will ever happen, how would they ever know that the money they're paying into these budgets, we balled out with it? The only way they'll know that is if something happens and we fail them. Because basically all this money is for you not to fail us when we need you, if you are in a department of government that are involved in preventative measures. It's no different than the prison system. If they literally push the departments of the government that specialize in preventative measures, then you wouldn't even have a prison pipeline system. The prisons will go out of business. So if you look around America and all of the departments that's supposed to have preventive responsibilities, they just taking free money and they ain't preventing nothing. They ain't preventing crime. Crime is getting worse, even though we pay into crime prevention systems. No one likes the word prevention, because if you're paying me billions of dollars a year to prevent something to happen, to prevent something from happening that is not likely to happen, I'm more likely to spend that money. I'm going to give you an example. If people say, well, we paying you $1 billion a year to prevent pink elephants from falling from the sky. Now, me personally, I'm going to be very tempted to not steal that money. Why? Because pink elephants will never fall from the sky. How would they know that I'm stealing the money from the pink elephant budget that they're paying for me to prevent pink elephants from falling from the sky, when I know pink elephants will never fall from the sky? Just a free cash cow. If I can get people to believe, see what I'm saying? So, but the point of me bringing up the pink elephants is because that's how they think of a lot of these preventative budgets. You got a lot of greedy people that's saying, hey, man, what's the chances of that happening, though? Sure, we can give everybody a raise again. They will exhaust those budgets because Part of that budget is to give your employees in these preventative programs, raises and all that. And you find out that you got a lot of people in these departments that's overpaid, even though these departments ain't preventing nothing. And that's when we need to start getting mad and say, hey, what's the point of having preventive departments if y'all ain't gonna prevent nothing? Because we spending a lot of money to prevent crime and crime getting worse. We spending a lot of money to prevent natural disasters, and guess what? It seems like they happening left to right. It's apocalyptic, some people say. And it was like, what's the point? The money we paying into preventive departments, we might as well use it for repair efforts. If we ain't gonna prevent none of this stuff, with all of our tech gurus, and we're in a technological age, there is no excuses on why we can't put a fire out, but you can put the mind of a rat inside of a computer. You can send a monkey to space, but you can't extinguish a fire. You can't put a fire out and you surround it by ocean water. How advanced are we, people? Let me give a shout out to Truck Life Tiara. Thank you so much for your support. She says, all facts, bro. Thank you for all you do for the community. Third eye open. Thank y'all. Thank you, sister. Yeah, let's double down. Let's go back over these lies. All right, because Sanchez is very thorough. When a person tell me something and I think you lying, I'll stay up at night to get the receipts to come back and say, hey, that liar is lying again. Yeah, because listen here, everything you said, equipment issues, we debunked that. Everything you're saying about the soil damage, we debunking that. And I'm gonna bring more receipts to debunk it, right? They said we can't use seawater because it'll damage the equipment, it'll damage the soil. Watch this, y'all. This what I'm about to show you now is real crazy. Look. This was on CNN 6 years ago. See, what happens is, and this some y'all can take note of, whenever they tell you we can't do something, you should go look up where they did do it. A lot of people don't know that trick. Because the people in power, they double talk so much, just like they said we can go to space, and they bragged about it. Then when we start questioning them about the technology and all that, we can't go to space. But that's another topic. They said we can't use ocean water to fight these fires, and they making all these lame excuses. 6 years ago, they used them. They used them 6 years ago. Look at here. And you got to keep in mind, these people double talk all the time. So if they say we can't use salt water today, you probably can find a situation where they use salt water before. That's what, I mean, they do that all the time. It's easy to debunk them. So here in this video, they was talking about how there were crews attacking wildfires with ocean water 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And they were like patting these people on the back. And now you don't want to do the same thing in these areas. Somebody lying. And you want some people to lose their property. But in this case, y'all are saving lands that ain't nobody living in. Do you hear me? 6 years ago, they was using ocean water to fight fires in the wilderness. But they don't want to use ocean water to fight fires in residential areas. What? To save people's properties. But you will use it to save the animals' environment. You will use it in the wilderness of California where it ain't no residences at. See, they be double talking, y'all. And Sanchez gonna always show that you're a hypocrite and that you're lying, because You can use ocean water. You've done it before, and it worked. And they was saying how it's gonna help, distinguish the wildfires out here and help Cali. So why can't it help the people? Y'all picking and choosing, and it looks suspect. That's why people got these conspiracies, and these conspiracies are seeming to be true. Let's play the video. 6 years ago, California crews used ocean water to put out wildfires. Let's watch it.
Some of the canyons above Malibu look like the surface of a lifeless planet, with almost nothing left to burn. But all it takes is one hot ember riding one gust of wind into another canyon, and suddenly there is a whole new front in this war with Mother Nature.
Imagine living down in that valley and realizing the only thing between your entire life and that wall of flame are these incredible pilots. Not just helicopter pilots, but big tanker jet pilots who are bouncing around in these 40, 50-mile-an-hour gusts, trying to precisely hit those spots.
This flare-up near Lake Sherwood scrambled a full aerial assault with helicopters, big and small, fixed-wing tankers bombing the flames with a jelly-like retardant, drop after drop, costing California millions of dollars. Pacific Ocean water is cheaper, though less effective, but things are so desperate, this day brought the surreal sight of surfers and super scoopers sharing the lineup at Malibu Beach.
There's a license plate frame out here that said Malibu, a way of life. And I always hated that. You should have had flames on one side and a mudslide on the other.
The cost of paradise, right? Steve Dunn is among the lifetime locals who ignored the evacuation order and resent some parts of the response, like the way Pepperdine University was allowed to shelter students in place, even as an inferno surrounded the campus.
Let me give a shout out to Ease W. Thank you for the super chat. Easy says, how will the salt be that detrimental? But the East Coast dumps millions of tons of salt on the roads for cold weather. For decades they did this, so why isn't the plants destroyed? Oh, my. That boy right there just went in.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Come on, shots fired. Come on, man. Think about that. They dump pounds of salt on the road on the East Coast every year, and that salt water runs into the irrigation systems, the sewage systems. It gets into the plant life, and you're right. New York ain't turning into a desert. That's interesting right there now. We really tearing this stuff apart, and I appreciate y'all for helping me and coming in and assisting me in tearing apart these lies too. So let's play this video, because this video is another receipt where they did use ocean water successfully, and we didn't get all of the excuses that we get now when it comes to using it for these residents.
I understand there's a lot of kids that don't have transportation, so it'd be difficult to get them all out. But the locals believe that it's because they wanted the fire department to post up there to protect the school, and they kind of use the students as a pawn.
That's such a perverse expression of misunderstanding and maybe even fear. We did not lock students in.
Andy Benton is the president of Pepperdine, in full disclosure, my alma mater. And in his 35 years here, he has seen 6 major firestorms.
In 1985, when I was here, we noticed that everybody just dropped everything, got in their cars and left. And we had no idea where they were. We had no idea if they were being cared for. So we decided thereafter that we could do better. And the do better was that we have equipped this campus to withstand fire to the best of our ability. We have 4.6 million gallons of water. We have 15 days of food. We have counselors, medical doctors, and a caring community to take care of those students and calm them. We relocate them into one of 2 facilities, and even now we've got a helicopter landing and withdrawing.
As you're speaking, look at this.
Withdrawing water from our lakes, 2,500 gallons in about 60 seconds.
I ain't gonna lie, man. It seemed like Pepperdine University is more prepared for a fire than the California, LA County government officials. This is sad. This is sad because they was giving this man flack, right? Let me show you why this video's so damning. This dude at Pepperdine, when the city was on fire, he told his people, don't trip, we cool. The way our building is made to protect against wildfire. He was so calm. They said, man, they had students in the school and the fire was burning right outside. They didn't evacuate. Here we go right here. This is from inside a Pepperdine classroom. And the students looking outside the university and the city was on fire. This was 6 years ago. And the dude at Pepperdine University, he was like, man, we ain't tripping about no wildfires. And they was like, why you ain't tripping? Bro, how this little university ain't tripping, but y'all running like a chicken with your head cut off. And these people prepared. They got systems in play. These people even got bunkers to take the students in case the fire come closer. Look, watch this video. How you got a private university more prep than the county, and the county getting billions of tax dollars to be prepared just like Pepperdine. Man, let me take it back to the middle, bro. This is crazy. Check the video out.
Order and resent some parts of the response, like the way Pepperdine University was allowed to shelter students in place, even as an inferno surrounded the campus.
I understand there's a lot of kids that don't have transportation, so it'd be difficult to get them all out. But the locals believe that it's because they wanted the fire department to post up there to protect the school, and they kind of used the students as a pawn.
That's such a perverse expression of misunderstanding and maybe even fear. We did not lock students in.
Andy Benton is the president of Pepperdine, in full disclosure, my alma mater. And in his 35 years here, he has seen 6 major firestorms.
In 1985, when I was...
So this dude saw 6 firestorms, and that was enough to let him know to have the University of Pepperdine, with some sort of preventive measures and systems in play, and spending some of that money that the university is making to actually protect the students from the fire. Why ain't LA County doing that with our tax dollars, y'all? Peep the video.
Here, we noticed that everybody just dropped everything, got in their cars and left. And we had no idea where they were. We had no idea if they were being cared for. So we decided thereafter that we could do better. And the do better was that we have equipped this campus to withstand fire to the best of our ability. We have 4.6 million gallons of water. We have 15 days of food. We have counselors, medical doctors.
These people got all that in play. Listen, Pepperdine take care of their students more than LA County take care of their residents. I'm going to tell you, if you're a student at Pepperdine, I'm jealous of you. They really take care of their students, bro. Hey, thank you to Church of Hurts. Much love. He says, thank you for being you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Students at Pepperdine get treated like angels. I wish they would treat the cities of the people of LA that way with their higher ups and their tax dollars. Speaking of angels, it is the city of angels, right? But you got devils in charge.
Decided thereafter that we could do better. And the do better was that we have equipped this campus to withstand fire to the best of our ability. We have 4.6 million gallons of water. We have 15 days of food. We have counselors.
And let's say that a fire never happened. Then that's just millions of dollars that Pepperdine spent for nothing. But they can sleep good at night knowing that we did spend millions of dollars just in case something do happen. We got this right here. But unlike what's happening in LA, you spending billions of dollars. And when something like this happen, you let them come out and give you lame excuses. So we paying for preventive systems. And not only are they using that money for their own purposes, They're taking the land. We spending our tax dollars basically so that we can protect our lands. But the people who want our tax dollars also want our lands. So we end up losing them both.
Oh my God.
Tell me that ain't shiesty. A tax-paying resident loses everything, and they've been paying into this system their whole life. They've been paying into an insurance policy for years, and now they need it, and it ain't there. You don't understand what these people must feel like. They must be want to unalive themselves. You got to think about that. It's one thing that I lost everything. It's another thing that I spent a lot of money in my life into programs just in case I lose everything. I can be insured, and I even lost that too. Literally have nothing. No insurance, nothing. You just imagine having a wardrobe, a house, a car, and now you got to go to the Goodwill with your children to get volunteer clothes, to get food from people. Overnight, your life changed. And the mayor show up from out of town giving lame excuses on why we let the city burn down when we could have just used seawater. And all of the answers they gave on why we letting the city burn down when we right next to the ocean, I said, them answers ain't good enough. So I hope you enjoy the stream. Let's finish.
Medical doctors, and a caring community to take care of those students and calm them.
So we get it with Pepperdine. All right. Let me see. Right here, 4 days ago, they was battling the fire with ocean water. Of course, they doing it. This is what I want to talk about. They are using the ocean water with planes, and they trying to make, well, we are using ocean water. The people are saying, why don't we have ocean water systems already in place? Because you taking billions of dollars. We paying y'all to prevent the stuff, not to wait for it to happen, then come with a cup in your hand with water in it, trying to put a fire out. Because that's what it is. If your house on fire, the city coming with a cup of water to throw on it. That's the helicopter. Like they want to keep showing these firefighters in the helicopters that's going to the ocean. That ain't really, that's nothing. The people are saying, we giving you billions of dollars. We should have systems with pumps in play for when this happened. Because why? And the people right, because look, they got them on oil rigs, man. This is called a firewater pump. Because on an oil rig, if a fire break out, it can pour the water right from the ocean and suck it in and start the irrigation, the sprinkler systems. That same system is on all of these drone ships that's going to be launched off of the oil rig until the Coast Guard and all them come. So they got ships offshore that can come in from different locations. If a fire happen, they got other ships, smaller ones out. Listen, they can have this thing surrounded in a small amount of time, and they'll be able to, these ships will anchor near the rig, and they will drop down this tube into the ocean, and they will literally take the ocean water to extinguish the oil rig fire. And it's no problems at all. And these are the kind of systems that they can have on the ground in LA. And it's fairly cheap. It's not as much as they want to make it. I know a lot of people going to go into the cost, and that's going to lead to my video. And I'm going to end the show with this video right here. So this is a 20-minute video I made because at this point, I've debunked all of the arguments, but there's one final argument. Argument number 3. Everybody gonna say it costs too much. The kind of systems that you're gonna need to use ocean water to prevent wildfires in LA County, it's just too costly. So I made this video to deal with the last argument when it deals with the cost. Ever since these Los Angeles wildfires have kicked off, a lot of higher-ups and people who are responsible have been trying to cover their rear ends. Why don't the city have anything in play to prevent this kind of stuff? And one of the main underlying themes that I'm hearing from the higher-ups as an excuse is costs. They're telling us that it costs more to prevent these problems than it is to just let them run their course and deal with the aftermath. At least that's what I'm getting from a lot of what I'm hearing. Maybe y'all are getting something else. Maybe by the end of this video, you'll agree with me. Maybe you won't. Let's go. Listen to this.
When fire hydrants ran dry in the Pacific Palisades, it sparked a wave of criticism and even misinformation.
Because Karen Bass didn't fill the reservoirs. So all the fire reservoirs were not, so the fire trucks are there, they couldn't pump water.
They cut the water off.
What? Now, I do want to say that Karen Bass may be the fall woman. What's going on is a bigger agenda than just one particular mayor or one person. This land grab agenda, in my opinion, because I do think it is a land grab agenda, and I went over that in my live stream that you should check out. This is an agenda that's so bigger than Karen. It's even bigger than LA. And this is something that we may start seeing playing out regularly around America. We know about the floods that's taking place in North Carolina. We're seeing how insurance companies are backing out before these things happen. I mean, there's so many red flags to let us know that we should be smart enough by now not to go with the media propaganda and just pin it all on one particular person, because the way these kind of agendas roll out is they always have a scapegoat. And in this case, it's Karen.
They cut the water off.
They don't have water.
Surveys show LA did have water, but amid widespread frustration and a report that a local reservoir in the Palisades was offline and empty due to repairs, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a review of Los Angeles water and power. Here's how the water supply system works and what we know about why hydrants ran out of water at the height of the Palisades fire. About 2/3 of LA County's water comes from sources outside of LA. And because LA is surrounded by mountains and hills, much of that water has to be pushed up to higher elevations.
Well, water is heavy, relatively speaking, and so it takes energy to pump it upstream.
Eric Porst.
I want everyone to pay attention to all of the excuses they're going to give about why they don't have the energy, the money, and all of that, right, to pump water uphill to prevent these kind of disasters. I'm going to be debunking all that in just a minute.
Director of the California Institute for Water Resources says you can think of the system sort of like a tree with interconnected branches. There are big trunk mains that move water from a source, like a water treatment plant or a reservoir, and carry it to smaller distribution mains, which split off from the trunk. From there, the water is moved through even smaller pipes or lateral lines that carry water to homes, businesses, and fire hydrants. In some areas, tanks and reservoirs are placed throughout the system to help maintain pressure, because pressure is what pushes water into all of the nodes. But during the LA wildfires, officials said intense demand overwhelmed the system, which drained several tanks and meant that there wasn't enough pressure to push water to hydrants up in the Palisades.
So I want to make sure that you understand there's water in the trunk line that just cannot get off the hill because we cannot fill it can't fast enough.
Officials say there wasn't a lack of water in LA, and data shows that major California reservoirs were at or above historic averages when the fires broke out. But in a letter to LA officials, Newsom called the ongoing reports of the loss of water pressure to some local hydrants during the fires and the reported unavailability of water supplies from the Santa Ynez Reservoir deeply troubling.
LA Mayor Karen Bass, she's facing significant criticism for cutting the fire department's budget just months before this week's wildfires. And it is said up to now that there is a toll of about 25 people that's unalived. And as firefighters struggled to contain the blazes, many areas ran out of water. And this left some residents to protect their homes with dirt and shovels due to dry fire hydrants and empty water lines. So the fire department's budget was reduced by nearly $18 million this year. And the Department of Water and Power has been plagued by all types of mismanagement scandals. Recent leadership issues includes this commissioner that was fired after less than a year. And then you had 2 general managers resigning amid controversies, one for wasting $40 million on ineffective projects, and another that was sentenced to 6 years for bribery. So critics argue that there should have been fail-safes to ensure water availability during such emergencies. And this isn't the first time water shortages have hampered firefighting efforts in LA County. Yet the necessary lessons appear to have been ignored. What we're looking at here is an image of the reservoir that was empty when the residents of Los Angeles needed it to be filled with water. So why was this reservoir closed? Why wasn't it maintained? Why wasn't it filled?
A nearby DWP reservoir was also out of commission and empty for repairs. This large reservoir in Pacific Palisades that is part of the Los Angeles water supply system was out of commission when a ferocious wildfire destroyed thousands of homes and other structures nearby. But officials said that the Santa Ynez Reservoir had been closed since about February for repairs to its cover, leaving a 117 million gallon water storage complex empty in the heart of the Palisades for nearly a year. Here are the before and after images, which show the extent of damage to properties in Los Angeles. This particular image is from the Altadena neighborhood, where the Eaton fire occurred. Using infrared cameras from Maxar, we can clearly see the fires raging on the ground.
Wow.
Moving on, these are additional before and after images, also from the Altadena area.
So for people who thinking that this is the work of one man, you got to be tripping. So we heard the excuse for why the well ran dry, basically. And we hear the excuses for why they can't pump the water because the system was overwhelmed. One big question that everyone asks is how can you have this much fire and it's right next to the ocean? Because you definitely shouldn't be running out of water if we're right next to the ocean. So I actually went on to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, why can't the city of Los Angeles just pump water from the ocean to stop wildfires versus just run out? And here is what ChatGPT told me. Let's check it out. So ChatGPT says, pumping water directly from the ocean to fight wildfires might seem like a straightforward solution, but there are several significant challenges and considerations that make this approach difficult. Number one, infrastructure requirements. Pipes and pumps. Building the infrastructure to pump large volumes of seawater from the ocean to inland areas prone to wildfires would require extensive and costly construction of pipelines, pumps, and storage systems. Elevation challenges. Wildfire-prone areas, such as those in the hills and mountains, are often at high elevations. Pumping water uphill over long distances would demand powerful pumps and a significant amount of energy. The cost, right, which is the main excuse that we hear from a lot of the people that's responsible, that is too much to prevent this kind of stuff, is too expensive to solve these problems and to prevent this stuff. Now, if you paying tax dollars into preventive programs and they're misusing that money, guess what they'll tell you? It costs too much to prevent this stuff. And my thing is, if it costs too much to prevent the stuff, then why are you taxing me? Shout out to D. Allen Warren. Black power, bro. Keep the truth and the real coming. I will, bro. Thank you so much. Think about that. It costs too much to prevent this stuff, but yet you making billions of dollars every year so that you can have preventive systems in place. If it costs too much to prevent it, then just don't have that budget in the department. You ought to say, hey, we ain't gonna even tax y'all for these preventive programs because you can't prevent this stuff. So keep your tax dollars. You see how that works? So let's read. The construction, maintenance, and operation of such a system would be extremely expensive, potentially outweighing the benefits, especially given the relatively infrequent occurrence of wildfires in some areas. So number 1 and 2 of these bullet points is based upon the challenge of pumping water uphill. And for that problem, we would be able to solve it with huge engines, huge pumps, pumps that's the size of buildings, right? And we could do that, but the reason we won't do it is because it is costly construction, okay? Money is the issue. We can do anything we want to do. We have brain-computer interfaces that can upload people's consciousness. And according to them, we got satellites in space that's taking pictures of other galaxies. I'm sure we can put out fires on the Earth, guys. I mean, how advanced are we? So according to a lot of experts, we are advanced. We can create these strong and very powerful technological systems to prevent this kind of stuff. But the money is too costly and it's not worth it. In other words, it's cheaper to just let all of these people be homeless and displaced because such a system would be extremely expensive, potentially outweighing the benefits. Wow, that's crazy. We know that wildfires don't happen a lot, but much love. Thank y'all for the super chats. Let me acknowledge them. Shout out to Ironwork. Shout out to my brother Ironwork. He said, go get them. On a ship, we use seawater to kill a fire if it's too bad instead of CO2 or AFFF. Shout out to the Ironwork and thank you for your service in the Navy. And that's my thing. If some of the worst explosions happen at sea because you're on a floating bomb, you know how much gallons of fuel or in these things, if you have any kind of fire and compromises, you on a big bomb. So shout out to P. Moses. He said, please like and share. Thank you, for sure. Thanks both of y'all for the donations. I appreciate it. Just a bunch of deception. Weighing the benefits. Wow, that's crazy. We know that wildfires don't happen a lot, but we get taxed every day for our people in power to prevent this kind of stuff. That's right. We know that wildfires don't happen all the time, but we pay insurance regularly just in case something like this happens. Right. But the mind state of the people in power is that it's your loss, not ours, and they will always make us bear the brunt. We have the infrastructure to create these systems to prevent this kind of stuff, and they're getting the money from us. Right. They got enough money, in my opinion, to make these kind of systems. They just won't. So the number one obstacle on why we can't prevent this kind of stuff is because the infrastructure for the type of systems that we would need is just too expensive and it ain't worth it. Now, the argument of is it worth it or not is irrelevant. If it's not worth using our tax dollars to prevent these kind of disasters, then why tax us? If the higher ups are saying it's not worth it to invest this kind of money into these kind of systems because wildfires aren't that frequent, then why tax us frequently in case something like this happened? That's like an insurance company telling you, well, car accidents ain't that frequent, so we don't got no money to be paying y'all out for car accidents because we don't have, think about this. All insurance companies have preventative programs, whether you with Geico, I don't know what insurance company you with, but those companies got preventative programs. And the most common preventative program is, if you stay out of accidents, we'll give you your money back, which is the one I think is fire. And there's a lot of companies do that. They say, look, if you ain't getting in no accidents, we literally gonna pay you. And that's a preventative program because they saying we are an insurance company, but if we gotta keep paying out in accidents, we gonna go broke. We rather give the people a little bit of that money so that they drive carefully. Don't that make sense? Their insurance companies are saying, if we give our customers a small percentage of this money back for them to drive safely and be more alert, we can pocket more money. Because if people getting in accidents every day, we can't pocket none of this money. Now, we want them to pay into this stuff, but we don't want no accidents to happen. If everybody in an insurance company got in an accident in one day, nobody will get paid. Because the truth is that your money ain't there, just like the banks. It's invested into other endeavors. You want to know the truth? Yeah. If everybody with Geico right now wreck their car in one day, nobody will get paid. That's why the people in Cali who lost their properties with this fire, nobody got no insurance payout. That's why the people in North Carolina who lost their property with the flooding, they didn't get no insurance payouts. If everybody that's paying into these insurance companies was to just get damages at one time, the insurance company ain't got that much money there. And that's why we see them always finding a way out in these situations. It's just like the banks. Everybody can't withdraw their money right now. We can prevent it because we spend so much tax dollars just to prevent certain natural disasters. And if our higher ups is just gonna let these things happen because it's too expensive to build the systems to prevent these things, then I think we should stop getting taxed. They're misusing the money and they're not using it for the people's plight. So right now we're gonna get some receipts on the table. We wanna know how much damage was done. In other words, if it's costing too much to prevent this stuff, then please don't let me find out that we're paying more to fix it after the fact than what we could have paid to prevent it before, guys. If you guys are using the excuse that it's too costly, please don't let Bro Sanchez find out that it's gonna cost us more money in the aftermath than it would have cost us just to prevent it altogether. And if this is true, it is just another huge red flag that there's an agenda behind this.
Neighborhoods wiped off the map. Homes reduced to piles of ash. Every day it gets more grim. Forecasters estimate the damage to be more than $250 billion.
$250 billion. It has costed us $250 billion and counting. Now remember what we're being told, that it costs too much to prevent these issues. It must cost more than $250 billion. Earlier, we asked ChatGPT about why we just don't pump the water from the ocean. And basically the main reason why we won't pump it from the ocean, according to them, is that the kind of pumps, the kind of systems that we would need to achieve such a task would be so costly that it ain't even worth it. We might as well just let the houses burn down and rebuild them. Do y'all think that's true? Because we have $250 billion worth damages. I asked ChatGPT, how much would these systems cost? Because we should be having a series of pumps available that can siphon water directly from the ocean in case something like this happened. It is just such a tragedy that a beautiful place like LA that's surrounded by beautiful beaches and water is suffering something like wildfires. And water issues is the reason why we can't stop these wildfires. If it's $250 billion worth of damages that we're looking at right now, and we're being told that the preventative measures would have been more expensive than $250 billion, I asked ChatGPT, how much would it cost to pump seawater inland to fight wildfires? And it said that the cost would depend on various factors, including the distance from the coast, the terrain, the volume of water needed, and the infrastructure required. However, to give a rough idea, ChatGPT says for pipelines and pumping stations, laying pipelines over long distances, especially across varied terrains, can be extremely expensive, often ranging from $1 million to $5 million per mile for large diameter pipelines. Multiple pumping stations would be needed to move water uphill, each potentially costing several $million. Energy costs. The energy required to pump water over long distances and elevations would be substantial, adding ongoing operational costs. Now, this one right here we can take with a grain of salt, because you got to keep in mind, with these kind of systems, you would have holding stations. Running out of water would never be an issue, because you would have a network of holding stations. And once we have all our holding stations filled up, we can stop running the power until an emergency happens. And then when an emergency happens, we open up the floodgates and we let those holding stations do their job. And the holding stations will never run out of water because they will be connected to the ocean. So one of the most expensive costs that they're trying to make like this would be an ongoing cost, that's not really true. I think that we don't have to have that one ongoing. You wouldn't have to just constantly run these systems, in my opinion. I can be wrong. ChatGPT gives us 2 more bullet points. Number 3, construction of reservoirs and distribution systems. And it says those can cost more hundreds of millions of dollars to deliver water to the fire-affected areas and building those holding tanks or reservoirs. We get taxed for this, right? So I asked ChatGPT to give me a rough estimate of how much you think this would cost. And before we get to the grand finale, because ChatGPT is about to debunk them, even though they created ChatGPT, this is crazy. Let me give a warm welcome to Black Pill Will. Thank you so much for being a channel member and sponsor of this channel, for real. Thank you for joining this channel. Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in, because now we finna debunk the last lie, which is it costs too much. It costs too much. Now, in order for y'all to ignore this lie, you gotta act like ChatGPT ain't smart. And for a hypothetical system spanning 100 miles from the coast to inland areas with challenging terrain, the total initial cost could range from $1 billion to $5 billion or more. What? Now, we just heard them say it was $250 billion in damages. Come on, bro. I'm debunking all of the lies they telling. This does not include ongoing operational and maintenance costs, which could add millions annually. And again, energy costs we can reduce significantly, because this ain't a system that we just need to run all the time. ChatGPT is giving us anywhere from $1 billion to $5 billion. And just to be gracious, I'm gonna say anywhere from 1 billion to 100 billion. And that's me being cocky right there. I'm saying, look, y'all, Data One said it's basically cheaper to just let it play out than it is to worry about preventative systems. People who stealing your money would never want to have preventive systems, because then they would have to use the money for what you gave it to them for. And they better hope that nothing never happened. And in this case, see the failure. And we know the corruption in LA County. ChatGPT said you can build a system like this for $5 billion is what it's starting at. These people said the damages in LA is $250 billion. Bro, if I can spend less than $100 billion for preventive systems, why would I let something play out that's going to cost me over $250 billion? That don't add up. And once again, we see that they are liars. Let's keep going. Just so we can cover a lot of ground and give ChatGPT more room here, because the people in power, right, they have told us that preventative systems would cost more, but the aftermath is $250 billion. And according to ChatGPT, an advanced system with powerful pumps connected to the ocean would only cost anywhere from $1 billion to $5 billion, nowhere near $250 billion. The most expensive thing about the project is the water itself. And we have tons of it. We right by the ocean. So the cost, the technicalities of it, you can miss me with all of those excuses, because we have some of the brightest minds in the world right there in California, in Silicon Valley. We are constantly worshiping our tech gurus. Where are they when we need them to be heroes for the people? These kind of infrastructures should have been in play to prevent these kind of disasters from happening to the people of Los Angeles. But a lot of people was wondering, why don't we just pump the water directly from the ocean? And the excuse was, it's too costly. So I did the research. You guys can let me know what you think about this research in the comment section. Is it too costly? Because according to ChatGPT, the amount of money that it costs to prevent this stuff is way cheaper than the aftermath expenses, which is $250 billion and rising. So get in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. And also, we sending much love and many positive vibes and good energy to the people in LA that's affected by this tragedy. Peace and much love.